So coral and peach. This coral was a huge popular color for me about 7 years ago. It was one summer I felt like I did a coral wedding after coral wedding. So I quickly learned my go-to flowers and what combinations I like. But it's such a beautiful, happy shade, and it pairs so beautifully with anything peach. And you can also introduce some yellow or gold elements, like in these um, mood board images. And so let's jump over to the Pinterest page. And first of all, I want to say that coral is a little bit like mauve. It's a little bit of a tricky color because there's not a ton of flowers that come in a true coral shade. And a lot of times it is a trick with the eye. So as a florist, back when I had that whole summer of doing a ton of coral weddings, everyone wanted that coral charm peony, but it was very hard to get that year, very unavailable. So I find that when you combine peaches, oranges, and pinks, it will visually give you that appearance of coral. So there are some coral roses that we will introduce into this package, but keep that in mind. So as we scroll through here, these are Amsterdam or movie star roses. They're very similar. That I feel like is a true bright coral. I love peach carnations, and there are those magical coral charm peonies. And one thing, if you're going to buy those, if they're in season when you're getting married, just know as they open, they bleach out. So they will start super, super dark and vibrant, and by the time they open, they will be really, really pale salmon. But I love this. I love the hydrangeas. I love the peach. Those look like Tiffany, and it looks like they either went with movie star or Amsterdam roses. I feel like sage works beautifully as well as dark greens. So it's really a preference. See how dark those are? Really dark, fresh peonies. And then that one has been open for about 3 days. And that was the same color as this when it started. And so see how they're doing combinations of oranges and pinks and peaches, and then your eye sees coral. So I don't know if we still have this on the website. I believe that we do. These are Miss Piggy roses that have a really great sunset color, but they only come from a handful of wholesalers, so sometimes they're a little bit tricky to get. This is a romantic antique garden rose. So it's darker than a Juliet, and it has a little bit of a vintage vibe, but I definitely feel like it has some coral and peach undertones. Here are some hypericum berries that always work for all reasons. And here are those Tiffany peach roses. And you can see a lot of peaches happening, and her dress is more coral, so I feel like that's what the eye sees. And this is unbelievable. So gorgeous. This is a great example. She has some true corals, but she has a lot of oranges. It looks like those are free spirits. She has a lot of peaches. But when you really look, not a ton of true corals, but when you see that image, your eye definitely registers coral first. And here's an example of the peaches and corals with sages, and here's an example of peaches and corals with those dark greens. So you can see the difference in that, so you'll know what you can identify which style you should go in. Okay, so now that we've looked through all those Pinterest images, let's go through and actually identify the flowers. So here's our true corals: a peony, coral spray roses. Here's those lovely hypericum berries. This is one rose I didn't talk about, but this peach campanella, I love it. It's a bit different and more ruffly in contrast to the Juliet, but it's a garden rose, just a little bit different. Garden roses are a bit spindier. They're typically larger and have a pretty nice visual impact, but standard roses I think can be just as lovely, especially if you reflex a few of them and get fancy. I love these sorbet snapdragons. These work fantastic if you're doing like really organic and wild bouquets, or if you're using them in large scale arrangements. Here is our true coral rose that's a movie star. It can also be subbed for Amsterdam. Both are very coral and bright. Here is our shimmer rose. Now I think that these have more pink undertones than the Tiffany's, but I love the ruffly petals. So I feel like if you're on a budget, I would do shimmers over the Campagnollas any day. And if you want to bring in more pink elements, because remember we talked about getting coral is a little bit of a combination of all these three colors, peach, pinks, and oranges. Geraldine's is a great medium pink. Cherry Brandies have some really nice sunset colors, and then of course Free Spirits are to die for. And I do want to make a side note, there's quite a few colors on the Free Spirit, and they open up to look huge like every time. I don't think I've gotten a bunch of these that did not blow out like this. And I can tell you the first time I got them, I damn near had a heart attack because I thought I had grabbed a bunch of garden roses and I thought I just blew my entire budget. So if you imagine this with some peaches and some Amsterdam roses, you're really going to see a lot of corals happening. Okay, let's look at the large package and see what I did here. It's always a surprise to me. Like, what? Why did I do that? Okay, so I kept a really strong foundation of peach. So you're going to get some shimmer roses. I thought I did Tiffany in this package, but I didn't. I'm still in love with these ruffles. I did peach carnations, some Juliet garden roses, peach ranunculus, really good foundation of creams. And then I came in with some coral movie star roses. I feel like those really bright colors are great accents, but if you do too many, I feel like it can hijack the overall look. So that's why you see more peaches than corals. So just like all of our packages, we tell you exactly what you're going to get. We tell you what you can make, and then we give you a recipe. That way you know exactly what to do with your flowers. So although you can't swap these out, the packages are preset. Use this as a guide if this isn't exactly what you want. So as long as these numbers stay the same, then your recipes will stay the same.